Hi, my name is Fritha Jameson and I'm the Assistant Principal for Student Affairs at Shinwai International School. This is the English version of Court Being Good. It is a presentation that has been compiled together for grades 6 to 8 parents, and it explores different ways that we can work together to support social emotional development during the turbulent middle school years. It includes strategies of how to remain connected to our children as they transition into being young adults. So why court being good? Too often we are very quick to judge or leap into action on a child's behalf. If we look at this picture, is the cat trying to sneak out or let somebody in? Has the dog at the bottom of the picture suggested to the cat to do this? Or is the cat teaching the dog how to open the door? Our preteen is changing, and are we collectively responding constructively to this change? Do our perceptions match the reality? I want us to consider a couple of factors in our presentation here: change and transition, and neurology, where their physical brain is an influence. Adolescence is a time characterized by change, hormonally, physically, psychologically, and socially. Functional MRI studies have demonstrated the developmental changes that occur during adolescence amongst white matter and grey matter volumes in the regions within the social brain. Here in the picture above, we can see a tiny little almond-like shape, the amygdala. This controls the emotions, and there we can see the hippocampus, memory conversion. How many times has your child forgotten or lost their items or their homework? Have you noticed that they might be a little bit more impulsive or quick to cry or lash out, withhold information or distort the truth? Essentially, their brains are reforming and developing, triggered by hormones that are in turn triggered by multiple other factors. In tandem with their physiological brain development is the cognitive development, specifically metacognition, thinking about thinking. Our wonderful children are becoming more self-aware as they transition into adulthood. Not only is their brain physically rewiring, their ability to observe what's going on and taking appropriate measures is developing. Over time, their impulsive, forgetful, and erratic behavior lessens. Their ability to set realistic goals for themselves is becoming stronger and more reliable, but not in linear steps. They are developing the skills to step out from themselves to resolve conflict, but they're not always getting it right or making the right choices. Their learning processes are messy as they figure out new strategies and ways of thinking. As adults, we are witnessing the development of our child's ability to think independently. It is messy and it is frustrating, especially as they're becoming self-aware and some reactions are completely out of their control and they're not yet able to articulate what's going on. So what else do we need to consider? Originally presented in Berlin in 1999 and subsequently developed in his work on constructivist theory, John Fisher's model of personal change, the process of transition as we can see it here, was revised in 2012. It is an excellent analysis of how individuals deal with personal change. This model is an extremely useful reference for individuals dealing with personal change and for us as parents and teachers in helping students to deal with personal change. If we look at it closely, we can see features that we recognize in ourselves as adults dealing with a transition from grade to grade or school to school. Can you see where your son or daughter might be right at this very moment, where they transition into this year's new grade? For our next 7 or so slides, we will look at parents' advice from the experts. As we go through them, reflect on whether you use them or not. Would they work in your family? Could you adapt them? As we look at these slides, consider that we're looking at students who either have an attitude or feel anxious or alone. Figure out what's behind the attitude. Is it a reaction to stress, disappointment, or very little sleep? Middle schoolers are trying to prove themselves academically and socially, and it can be a challenge to keep negativity and cynicism at bay when they're emotionally depleted. If your child had a fight with a friend or is doing poorly in school, a flippant "so what" tone may conceal fear or anxiety. If they hear you or a spouse speak rudely to others, they will copy that behaviour. Target one attitude at a time. Do you bristle at their sense of entitlement or lack of empathy? Are you most offended by their barely under their breath remarks, or the way they roll their eyes or slam the doors when you speak? Are you overwhelmed with a cascade of issues that they identify as upsetting them? While there may be several things you wish would disappear or could be solved instantly, focus on one thing at a time. Nurture the attitude you want to see. Once you've targeted the offensive attitude or the most key anxiety, zero in on the one you would like to see instead. For instance, an insensitive child needs to be caring and empathetic. The non-compliant child can learn to be respectful and dependable. The demanding child should be considerate. Role model the behaviours you want to see. If you are overwrought, dismissive, or quick to flare, they see this and they think it is acceptable. Middle schoolers tend to watch what we do, not listen to what we say. Nurture in yourself what you would like to see in them. Stay cool. Breathe. Calm yourself. Your amygdala is reacting too. Plan ahead. Memorize a short script so you can clearly but calmly respond to a child's hostility or tears in the heat of the moment. Allow their brain functions to calm. Expect slamming doors or gulping tears. Allow it to work out of their system. Some sources say that a hijacked amygdala can take up to 18 minutes to calm. Draw your line in the sand. This aspect is more for a child who has breached an agreement. At Swiss, we talk about bottom lines or non-negotiables. You will see this with our technology rules and our academic policies, or how we interact with each other during the school day. During a peaceful moment, patiently point out the attitudes you are concerned about. It is key to give your son or daughter another chance to respond or to repair relationships. Remember that the process of change and growing up is messy. Keep your standards and expectations high, but be realistic. Is bright pink hair really impacting on their ability to learn, for example? When they are younger, we set the bottom lines, but now they're becoming more self-aware. Allow them to set the bottom lines for some things. This independence will increase over time, and before you know it, they will be at high school and university and able to set their own bottom lines, and you will be confident in the knowledge that their practicing of this took place under your guidance and set of family values. Follow through with consequences. What goes around comes around. Do not rescue your child from natural consequences. Be a parent, not a friend. Being a parent means setting boundaries, setting rules, having expectations that stick, and allowing your child to suffer the consequences of their actions. If your child does not achieve a high criterion grade, don't blame the teacher. Your child should be the first one you talk to. If the teacher says your child isn't doing homework and the child says, yes, we are, well then check them every night that they are doing their homework. If your child goes to an unacceptable website at school, or has their phone confiscated, or is not wearing the correct shoes on Mondays, or keeps arriving late, or plagiarizes because they're trying to meet a deadline that they left to the last minute and gets in trouble for it, don't blame the school or assume that every other student is doing it because your child says everyone is doing it. Children learn from their consequences, and Swiss has these and administers them as fairly as possible. This is the time for them to make mistakes and learn from them. If not now, then when are they moving to this learning stage? Are they pushing it to university or their first job? Consequences are not the same as punishments, and you might find that having your son or daughter come up with creative consequences and seeing them through will slowly see an increased ability in medical. And the most important, notice the good times. When the infuriating comments cease or the difficult stage passes, let your child know you are proud of them. and hang in there. By the age of 14 or 15, the confident and positive child you used to know will come back. At this point of the presentation, we had prepared 3 case studies that we shared with the parents in small groups. At the bottom were a couple of questions for parents to consider from different perspectives how they would have dealt with the certain situations. In closing, when I see this picture, I know that my initial reaction is probably, what's going on here? I'm angry or I'm alarmed. I consciously name how I feel to diffuse my hijacked amygdala. I take a moment to breathe and process how I will respond. I don't entice the cat away with treats. I don't try and scare it. What was my bottom line? Had I made it clear earlier with signs or signals? Once it has jumped down, I have a choice to either move the cat post to a different spot as a consequence, or simply celebrate that this cat is not in danger and is not causing any harm to others and has figured out how to open the door for themselves. The cat has been caught doing good. The dog, on the other hand. I hope you enjoyed this little mini presentation and it provides much food for thought. Attached at the bottom here we can see the different references that I used to compile this particular presentation.